Sir, he said, the request which you have just made of me to receive the record of my life is one which I carefully comply with so far as it lies in my power. So I lament to say that the voice which I transmit to you is only the relic of an organ, the employment of which has been overstayed.
Our new liabilities arise from the duty of providing adequately for the defense of the empire, from the grant of pensions long deserved and long deferred to the aged, and from our determination to supplement and extend this first installment in a large policy of social reform.
We want more money in order to strengthen the Navy, so as to keep our shores safe from any possible invader, to provide pensions that will give comfort to 1 million men and women in their declining years, and to carry out many a long-desired and long-promised plan of social reform to redeem the people from anxieties and sufferings which are now so grievously oppressing them. For it raises from motor cars a large yearly income to make our roads safer and to make them freer from the nuisance of dust.
As long as we have the wisdom to keep the sovereign authority of this country as the sanctuary of liberty, the sacred temple consecrated to our common faith, men will turn their faces towards us and draw their breath more freely. The association of the peoples of the empire is rooted, and their fellowship is rooted in this doctrine of the essential dignity of the individual human soul. That is the English secret, however feebly and faintly we have at times and places embraced and obeyed it.
Consider what it is that worries the lives of our people. First and foremost, there is the dread of an ever overhanging poverty. The nation is rich. Millions of pounds are squandered every year in deteriorating luxury, which blesses and benefits nobody. Many who have not earned their possessions. Multitudes who have not have toiled all their days, and at the end are no better off than when they began.
On the one side are Mr. Henderson's socialists, who by their extravagance wrecked the financial stability of the country. And when faced with the responsibility of taking the necessary measures to save a crash in the value of the pound, which would have brought suffering and privation to all classes in the country, deserted their post. We have power to enter into trade agreements with the dominions in order that we may find new markets for our manufactures in the empire.
I am speaking to you from the Cabinet Room at 10 Downing Street. This morning, the British ambassador in Berlin handed the German government a final note stating that unless we heard from them by 11 o'clock, that they were prepared at once to withdraw their troops from Poland, a state of war would exist between us. I have to tell you now that no such undertaking has been received, and that consequently this country is at war with Germany. You can imagine what a bitter blow it is to me that all my long struggle to win peace has failed. Yet I cannot believe that there is anything more or anything different that I could have done and that would have been more successful.
That is the resolve of His Majesty's government, every man of them. That is the will of Parliament and the nation. The British Empire and the French Republic, linked together in their cause and in their need, will defend to the death their native soil, aiding each other like good comrades to the utmost of their strength. We shall go on to the end. We shall fight in France. We shall fight on the seas and oceans. We shall fight with growing confidence and growing strength in the air. We shall defend our island, whatever the cost may be. We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing grounds. We shall fight in the fields and in the streets. We shall fight in the hills. We shall never surrender. And if, which I do not for a moment believe, this island or a large part of it was subjugated and starving, then our empire beyond the seas, armed and guarded by the British fleet, would carry on the struggle until, in God's good time, the new world, with all its power and might, steps forth to the rescue and the liberation of the old.
The Labour Party is, in fact, a good cross-section of the nation. There are foreigners who do not appreciate this fact, and there are people at home who cannot understand it. They say, I cannot understand why well-to-do people should support socialism. I can understand, of course, a working man doing so. The answer is that the socialist appeal is essentially a moral one. The economic principles for which Labour stands are not put forward as aims in themselves, but as necessary of application, in order that Britain, in its economic and social organization,
we could not allow a conflict in the Middle East to spread. Our survival as a nation depends on oil, and nearly 3/4 of our oil comes from that part of the world. As a Labour Member of Parliament, speaking in support of the government, put it, to be without oil, I quote him, to be without oil is to see our industries grind to a standstill and starvation overtake the people. Yes. Chaos in the Middle East could permanently lower the standard of life in this country, in Europe, as well as in many poorer countries in the world.
It's true, of course, that in a material sense, population, tonnage of steel, supplies of metals or raw materials, this island cannot match the vast resources either of the United States or of Soviet Russia. All the same, Britain isn't alone. Think of the Commonwealth and all that this means. Think of the peoples of Europe. With these countries, we already have close ties, and I firmly believe that it is our destiny to work more and more closely with them. And then, the total strength and wealth of all these communities, Commonwealth and Europe, is no less than that of the two great giant powers.
Every human family can live from now on free from the fear that their unborn children will be affected by man-made poison in the air. Let the nations of the world now, recognizing that war is outdated, seek most diligently for ways to convert the old and sterile Cold War based on old-fashioned ideas of inevitable conflict, and seek a genuine peace based on the recognition of the truth that all men are brothers.
On Sally number 3, at Sheffield, he attacked us in terms for our 1967 application. While he's fully in favour of going in, he was reported as saying that a great deal of damage was done to Britain's case by our application in 1967. Does he think then that this decision to apply was wrong? Did he think it then? Hansard, 9th May 1967, column 1300. We welcome the application which the government are making and we wish them every success.
And to the trade union leaders, I would say this. Stop the strikes and start the work. Stop chasing wild and unjustifiable wage claims. Start negotiating sound and solid productivity deals. Stop the redundancies by making it possible for firms to earn the profits on which investment and then jobs depend.
The cosy world, which we were told would go on forever, where full employment would be guaranteed by a stroke of the Chancellor's pen, cutting taxes, deficit spending, that cosy world is gone. Yesterday, delegates pointed to the first sorry fruits, a high rate of unemployment. The rate of unemployment today, there is no need for me to say this to you, cannot be justified on any grounds, least of all the human dignity of those involved.
To those waiting with bated breath for that favourite media catchphrase, the U-turn, I have only one thing to say. U-turn if you want to. The ladies not for turning.
For Europe is not always comfortable for the United Kingdom. Our history is different from our partners, and so often are our instincts in particular circumstances. Of course, we have more in common than divides us, but we in this country are instinctive free traders. Not all of our partners share those instincts. Our 20th century experiences are different, and so are many of our attitudes. Our policies are more black and white, more adversarial, more blood and thunder. So we are sometimes uneasy partners for our colleagues in Europe.
We take our freedom for granted. But imagine not to be able to speak or discuss or debate or even question the society you live in. To see friends and family taken away and never daring to complain. To suffer the humility of failing courage in the face of pitiless terror. That is how the Iraqi people live. Leave Saddam in place, and the blunt truth is that is how they will continue to be forced to live. If this House now demands that at this moment, faced with this threat from this regime, that British troops are pulled back, that we turn away at the point of reckoning, and this is what it means, what then? What will Saddam feel? Strengthened beyond measure. What will the other states who tyrannize their people, the terrorists who threaten our existence, what will they take from that? That the will confronting them is decaying and feeble. Who will celebrate and who will weep if we take our troops back from the Gulf now? Tell our allies that at the very moment of action, at the very moment when they need our determination, that Britain faltered. I will not be party to such a course. This is not the time to falter. This is the time for this House, not just this government or indeed this Prime Minister, but for this House to give a lead. To show that we will stand up for what we know to be right. To show that we will confront the tyrannies and dictatorships and terrorists who put our way of life at risk. To show at the moment of decision that we have the courage to do the right thing. I beg to move the motion.
This is a decisive moment for the world economy. The decisions that we make now will affect our world for a decade or more to come. And people now recognise that this is a global crisis that requires a global solution. That's the reason why I've been speaking to other world leaders to build agreement on what we can do together to solve the problems. And that is why this is not a time for business as usual. If we are to solve the economic crisis and get our economies moving, then we need as a world community to take action together on a number of different fronts.
I see that Labour have stopped talking about the debt crisis, and now they talk about the cost of living crisis, as if one wasn't directly related to the other. And if you want to know what happens if you don't deal with a debt crisis and how it affects the cost of living, just go and ask the Greeks. Last year, Britain overtook France as Germany's top trading partner. Not bad for a nation of shopkeepers. And that's the point. Around the world, we really do matter as a united kingdom. England, Wales, Northern Ireland and Scotland. Now the date for the referendum has been set. The decision is for Scotland to make. All the arguments about the economy, about our currency, I believe they make an unanswerable case for the United Kingdom. But today I want a more simple message to go out to all the people of Scotland. From us here, in this hall, from this party, from this country, from England, and yes, from Wales and Northern Ireland too. And it is this: we want you to stay. We want us to stick together. Think of all the things we've achieved together, all the things we can do together. The nations as one, our kingdom united.
First, the need for strong, proven leadership to steer us through what will be difficult and uncertain economic and political times. The need, of course, to negotiate the best deal for Britain in leaving the EU and to forge a new role for ourselves in the world. Brexit means Brexit, and we're going to make a success of it.